From the SportsBeat Live Week 17, the Chiefs prepared to take on the Cincinnati Bengals and are riding high on an 8-game win streak after last weekend's 36-10 thumping of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The win also secured the Chiefs' sixth straight AFC West divisional title. I'm joined by my colleagues, the esteemed Vahe Gregorian. Where is your cup of coffee, my friend?
There you go. It's the one with Goldie Buttercup and Ralph on it that was made for us by our friend Ashley.
Hey, you and I are sporting the all juice sweatshirts. Hey, you know, we did not rate each other's wardrobe, but, you know, hey, always a tip of the cap to our friend Therese Paler. Also, Sam McDowell joins us. Sam, are you drinking Gatorade or coffee? We got to see this.
I got nothing with me, Herbie, but if you guys had given me the memo, I would have worn my t-shirt.
Hey, before looking ahead, let's recap the week with the news items. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who suffered a shoulder injury in Week 16 against the Steelers, didn't practice Wednesday, but the Chiefs welcomed back numerous players from the COVID-19 list. Sam, who's back, and what does it mean for Sunday's game?
I don't know. They got the list right in front of me, Herbie. Maybe I should go to you for this. But everybody, I mean, that's the quickest answer is everybody is off the COVID list. That includes Harrison Butker, Travis Kelce, Nick Bolton, Lucas Niang, Tommy Townsend. The Chiefs were practicing with a full squad yesterday with the exception of Edwards-Helaire, and then Mike Hughes missed it for personal reasons.
Yeah, and the other good news for the Chiefs as well is Tyrann Mathieu, who left Sunday's game with a quad injury. Hey, Coach Andy Reid said, quote, he's feeling great, end quote. So he practiced in full and was not on the injury report. So that means he's probably going to be just fine for Sunday's game. But let's talk about that COVID list real quick, though. Are there any concerns on conditioning? And Sam, I know we heard Patrick Mahomes talk about Tyreek Hill, what he noticed on the field. And even Chris Jones had mentioned, you know, trying to get back in shape. But as Kelce and a host of players are coming back from the COVID list, how concerned are you about their need to get back into, quote, game shape, end quote?
Well, I mean, I think that just because guys are back doesn't mean they're back to 100%. I mean, there's a difference there. And we've seen that this virus affects people in different ways. Chris Jones was pretty candid with us yesterday on his Zoom call and said that, you know, he absolutely felt something. You know, he was not one of the asymptomatic individuals. He said he was feeling congested. And it's been, what, Herbie, 9 days since Chris Jones was off that COVID list. And he said he still feels like he's trying to get back in game shape. So great news for the Chiefs in terms of who's back. But I still think we're in the wait and see game to see at what percentage are they back? How are they feeling? And, you know, how much can they go on Sunday? It's, of course, reminiscent of last week. Now, Tyreek Hill was activated late in the week. We found out Saturday that he had cleared COVID protocols. But as you mentioned, Patrick Mahomes said Tyreek Hill was exhausted during the game on Sunday. And Andy Reid had already told us that he had to have ongoing conversations with Tyreek Hill throughout the game. How you feeling? How much energy do you have? And we saw Tyreek Hill involved early and not a whole lot late. I think that was the primary reason why.
Vahe, you're a former Division I college football player. I'm giving you your props here. how you know, when you mention conditioning, Sam talks about the conditioning. As a former college athlete yourself, how is that affecting what these guys need to do?
Well, look, I mean, one thing we know is that everybody's body is different. We also know that everybody has incurred this illness in varying degrees. We also know that there is, especially in football, I think, this is probably true in other sports, but certainly in football, there's no substitute for either game action or practice action. Even in these days when there's not hitting of the nature that it was back in the Jurassic era, I mean, during the week, you know, it's being in pads, it's playing at the pace of those around you. And we know there's a difference between game speed and practice speed. So there's a lot of X factors with each guy. There's just no way around it. Obviously, as Sam emphasized, the idea of being back in the saddle for, you know, up to a week or most of a week is different than a day or so, whatever. I don't know that there was no practice on Saturday, so Tyreek did not practice at all last week. So I think we'll see varying degrees of that. You know, we don't know at this stage if which of these guys was actually asymptomatic or which of these guys had a little something.
Sam, you were getting ready to say something, or I think you were just nodding your head in agreement there.
No, yeah, I'll just put a pin on what Vahe said. I completely agree. We know Chris Jones was feeling something because he told us, but we don't know the rest of the guys how much this virus affected them, and those who were affected, they don't know how much it's going to continue to affect them going forward.
Yeah, and the Chiefs, kudos to the Chiefs coaching staff, because every time somebody has missed time, even Spags last week had mentioned that they want to be smart with players because of the missed practice time, because of the missed game time, because as Vahe points out, there's a huge difference in all of that when you are not around the team. Let's transition to
well Herbie, one point that we should put on that I'm sort of thinking about now is, remember, Tyrann Mathieu opened the season with 10 days on the COVID list, and the Chiefs held him out of Sunday's game even though he had been cleared. He cleared all the protocols, and it was purely because of conditioning. Herbie, you were sitting there watching Tyrann Mathieu warm up that game, and we all thought, okay, he's warming up, he's been cleared, he's going to play. And Andy Reid held him out because of his conditioning. Now these guys are being rushed back. I shouldn't say rushed back. They're being allowed to come back at even quicker pace based under the NFL's new protocols. But just because the NFL clears them, it doesn't mean that conditioning aspect has changed at all.
And just to add to that really quickly, you guys please disagree with me if I'm wrong on this, but we've certainly seen this pattern under Andy Reid. It seems to be wait another game or give it more time. I don't think anybody can accuse this coaching staff of trying to influence Rick Burkholder or anybody into getting guys back faster. I mean, I think they want guys to play as soon as possible, but I think they've got a pretty good track record of not endangering somebody who's either just recovering from an injury or working to get back in shape.
Excellent point, because even Steve Spagnuolo said on Thursday last week, we have to protect the players from themselves, because Vahe, as a former college athlete, that you want to get out there regardless if you're hurt. You just want to get out there. I'm giving you props, Vahe.
Let me say this, as a former college athlete who didn't play, I really wanted to get out there all the time.
But you went through all the practices, okay?
Yes, I did. That was the hard part.
Did he pay you for all these drops? I mean, how many are you going to drop today, Herbie? The fact that Vahe played college football.
Hey, we have a subject matter expert on our panel here when we can talk about this kind of stuff, okay? Hey, transitioning to some of the sad news of the week. The NFL mourned John Madden, who passed away Tuesday morning at the age of 85. Andy Reid had a close relationship with Madden, who even offered advice to Reid to take the Chiefs job in 2013. Here's what Reid said Wednesday on his friend's passing.
I believe he was sort of enough of a mentor to you that he was part of your decision making when you chose to come to the Chiefs. Is that correct? And can you just clarify that?
Well, he loved to hate the Chiefs, but he loved the Hunt family. So, but I mean, he'd tell you that they had some knockdown dragouts. He could about remember every play. So. But he said it's a great organization. The Hunt family is phenomenal. He'd always remind me to tell Norma Hunt hello. So he just he liked him, but he didn't like him.
You've always said that you are a teacher when it comes to being a football coach, and that was obviously something John was passionate about. Just what do you feel like John taught you most about how to be a teacher?
Well, he was a player's guy. I mean, he would talk to them, communicate. And he did the same with us, with the fans on TV. I mean, that's what he did. So that's why we all loved him. He kind of taught us the game in a simple way where everybody felt like they could go play.
You're muted, Herbie.
Good catch. Vahe, you wrote a touching column on Reid's relationship with Vahe, and for our readers and our viewers right now, strongly recommend you go to kansascity.com and read it. But what is the depth of their relationship, and how did this affect Andy?
Well, I think that I think Andy was working extra hard to suppress a level of emotion yesterday. That's just my gut feeling, but he gave some answers that were a little bland, but you could tell there was more in the answer. And I thought it was, again, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I thought it was very interesting that he ended the call by thanking the media for asking so many questions about John. You could tell this is an important relationship to him. I wish we could have just had a session talking to Andy about John, because I think he would have gone deeper into the period of time, which I think was long lasting, where they talked once a week with Andy as part of that subcommittee, but also as friends. John gave him a lot of encouragement in Philadelphia, especially when Andy was having some similar episodes to what John experienced in Oakland, winning a lot in the regular season and losing big playoff games. That they commiserated, and it was kind of fun that when Andy spoke of the first time he met Madden, getting in the Madden Cruiser and getting a lap around the parking lot at Lambeau, I think Andy referred to it as the thrill of a lifetime. You know what's interesting to me, just one other quick side point, is that John Madden seemed to occupy a place in the profession, obviously from a couple of different standpoints, but that younger coaches, and Andy at that point really was a younger coach, really looked at him as iconic. And it was because I think he had such a sort of charisma and everyman quality that everybody could see something in him. And if he took an interest in you, then I think that just affected you forever. And for whatever reason, whether Andy was joking about them being linemen or that they like to eat, or they're both from California, I think the fact that they both had linemen in their past was part of it too. There was a very natural connection between them.
Sam, you wrote a line in your article yesterday on the players' reaction to John Madden. I thought was like it really hit me, because you said it was generational. How did the players react to? We had Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes yesterday, but how did they react to the news of John Madden's passing?
Yeah, I think that, like Vahe mentioned, John Madden had a relationship with the next generation of coaches. And the relationship, the connection with Andy Reid makes a ton of sense, because I just think their personalities are a lot alike. I mean, they do have that players coaches mentality. And then I think you had the next generation that watched him as a broadcaster. They grew up listening to John Madden explain the game to them. And of course, the Madden telestrator was, innovative at the time. And then you still have this generation of the current players who are playing the video game that John Madden put his name to in '88, I think it was. And, if you watch that documentary that Fox played a week ago, John Madden was pretty instrumental in making that Madden game as realistic as it could possibly be. That game was designed back on 8-bit, and they thought, there's too many people on the field at once. We've got to get rid of some of the linemen. It's the only way this is going to work. And he said, I'm not involved unless you've got all 11 guys on the field, including the linemen. And, obviously his voice was on the game for years and years and years. And so a lot of people who never saw John Madden coach, who never heard him announce a game, still felt a connection to John Madden through that video game. And that's what Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones said. Patrick Mahomes has been he's graced the cover of the video game twice. And kids grow up, Chris Jones included, just wanting to play with their own person in the Madden game. And so that was a really cool aspect to hear Chris Jones describe. Patrick Mahomes said he played the game with his dad. Said his dad made him cry because he always beat him. He always took the Vikings with Randy Moss in the game. I played the hell out of that game. I don't remember the Vikings being the team to beat. I remember you didn't want to play against Michael Vick. But yeah, it's going to continue too. That's what's so cool about it. I mean, we're talking to the players now, but the next generation of players are going to know who John Madden is because of that video game as well.
That video game came along a little too late for me, and
you're missing out. That was great.
I'll have to maybe see if you've got a version of it still at the McDowell home and do a pop in. We had there was a Sports Illustrated board game. I don't know if any of our audience is old enough to remember that, but we would play that forever, and it involved a lot of picking cards and rolling dice, and somehow even that seemed captivating. I can't imagine how just engrossed you would be with a game where you actually feel a sense of physical control, not to mention having your name on it.
You know what? I was not big into video games as a kid, but I bought Madden every year, and it was usually the only game I bought. It was the reason I had a PlayStation was to play Madden, and every single year I bought the updated version of it.
We're sitting here reminiscing on John Madden, and actually, y'all mentioned what he meant to you. I think for me, growing up, and we're all men of a certain age, right, Vahe? So
at least two of us are.
We certainly remember the Miller Lite commercials. Who could not appreciate and fall in love with John Madden as he's busting through the walls and boom. That's what I remember the most about John Madden, and he introduced a lot of people to football. Even if you didn't like the sport, you came to love the sport because of the way he would break it down. I thought it was phenomenal.
What was fun too, and this is spoken from somebody who didn't grow up here, but again, I was born in 1961, so the heyday of a lot of Chiefs Raiders stuff, from on into the late 60s and early 70s. Even if you lived in Texas or on the East Coast where I lived, obviously we didn't get that many football games then, but you could almost always count on a AFC West or NFC West game late afternoon as the second game. And I can't tell you how many times I remember seeing Raiders Chiefs or seeing just Madden's unique posture on the sideline. And he just seemed like another guy, right? You didn't know that he had a way of really reaching these players. You just knew they were successful. And I think that was a part of his appeal, right? And Andy explained that a little bit yesterday with, he just made it seem like a simple game you could go play. Patrick said that, I guess, actually.
Well, speaking of a simple game, this is actually transitioning into what the Chiefs face in Week 17. You got the Cincinnati Bengals. They've got 3 players on offense with more than 1,000 yards, both of their wide receivers and their running back, Joe Mixon. How simple is this game? The Chiefs are currently in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed as long as they don't lose and the Titans don't catch them. So what do the Chiefs need to do this game, Sam? You got Joe Burrow over there. This when you look on paper, this is a pretty prolific offense, right?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be for a while. I mean, those guys that you mentioned are all under 25 or younger, including the quarterback. So this could be a team that the Chiefs face for a few years now in these sorts of situations. Huge game. I think it's a bigger game for the Bengals than it is for the Chiefs. I mean, a lot of people are probably wondering, can the Bengals compete at this level? And this is their opportunity to prove it on their home field. So the Chiefs are going to be facing a team that I think emotionally is going to be on a high. And that's going to be something they have to account for and match that intensity. But, specifically on with the X's and O's, the wide receivers are going to be a lot to handle with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You could argue that duo is as good as anything the Chiefs will have faced this year. Especially when you consider that Higgins is the number 2 guy. And so, to me, the big matchup is the secondary. You've got to pressure Joe Burrow because you can't allow those guys even more time to get open. But yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to give up some points. This defense has been fantastic over the last 8-9 weeks. But I do think because of the 2 wide receivers that it's their biggest test yet since they sort of had this midseason turnaround here.
Vahe, what do you think about this game?
Well, I look, I like how the Chiefs are playing. I was thinking about this, that they've kind of drawn a line in the sand, but after that 3-4 start, but that I think inherently a line in the sand means it's, able to be changed, right? So that every game remains a proving ground. And I think the Chiefs are the team to beat right now, but it doesn't make them invincible in any way. And they'll be incentivized. I think, there's a lot at stake here for the Chiefs too, probably not to the degree of the Bengals, and knowing that the Chiefs are kind of top dog. I think that adds something to what everybody feels going into a game with the Chiefs these days. So I think the Chiefs will need their A game. I think if the Chiefs play their A game, they'll win this game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you as well. I think when you look at the Bengals and even all the teams in the AFC, the Chiefs are the team that they want to measure themselves against. When I look at this Chiefs team and this 8-game win streak, they are truly coming together. The past month in December, they averaged 35 points per game. Mahomes was averaging 277 yards passing per game. He won the AFC Offensive Player of the Month for December. I think there's just entirely too much here for the Bengals to handle, even at their own home station. Would you all agree with that? And I'm predicting the Chiefs to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's even, those stats you mentioned with Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he's set out fourth quarters, the past 2 home games with the Raiders and the Steelers. I know he threw 1 pass last week against the Steelers, but heck, even most of the second half, they were just running the ball. I think you've seen a new version of the offense. It's funny how often we talked about these deep shells, and what are the Chiefs going to do? And I mean, Patrick Mahomes literally faced a question about has the NFL figured you out? Have they figured out the Kansas City Chiefs? And this is part of how the NFL works. I mean, it's adjustment, and then it's an adjustment to the adjustment. And it took the Chiefs a while, but they've readjusted to what they're seeing. Part of that is just not turning the ball over, and part of that is just, you know, they had some bad bounces, some bad luck along the way. But they've figured something out here, and part of it is his connection with the receivers. Part of it is, I think, giving the playbook just back to Patrick Mahomes over these past couple of weeks. But they're a different team than they were early in the season. And crazy enough, it's because Patrick Mahomes has been a different player than he was in the mid part of the season.
Vahe, your dogs agree or disagree that the Chiefs win this game?
I think they would always just be agreeing with anything Sam McDowell says. So they're right on with them. Look, the Chiefs have evolved, obviously, as a team in multiple ways. And in a lot of ways, the defense is the most, you know, astonishing or most pronounced, however you want to put it. But in fits and starts, Patrick and the offense have evolved too. And what's interesting to add on to what Sam said, just, okay, it is adjust to adjustment, adjust to adjustment. But all of that means that the Chiefs' array of ways to adjust has increased. You know, the things, it's too bad for them that they struggled early in the season, but all the things that they've seen now adds to what they have in their holster for dealing with seeing it again or other variations they're going to see. So I think you can make a case that they're better rounded, more prepared, more versatile than maybe they've even been in the last couple of years. I mean, we'll see. It depends a little bit on what the line continues to do, and a little bit about who they've got in the backfield.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because if Edwards-Helaire doesn't play, then, you know, the Chiefs are down to Darrell Williams, Derek Gore, fullback Michael Burton, and Jerick McKinnon might be coming back this week. He was designated to return to practice. He's been on injured reserve with a hamstring injury, so he might be available if Edwards-Helaire doesn't play. But you know what? We mentioned adjustment, and as we get ready to wrap down the show, we on SportsBeat Live will have to adjust without producer Beth. Producer Beth, where are you? Come on there. Keep calm. That's what we're going to have to do, right? You're on mute, Beth.
Oh my gosh, I'm on mute. That's so embarrassing.
For our viewers who don't know and for our readers who don't know, behind the scenes of every production is the unsung hero. And for us, the unsung hero has always been Beth Welsh. She has produced numerous SportsBeat Lives and even podcasts across the Kansas City Star over the past few years. Beth, unfortunately, this is her last show with us as she gets ready to move on to other things. Beth, we just wanted to bring you on to say thank you so much for everything that you have done for us, especially us. You know, you kept us in line. Vahe and Sam, if you have anything special you want to say to Beth before we turn the floor over to her.
Go ahead, Sam.
Well, I mean, you know, this show doesn't run like it does without Beth. So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes she has to deal with, particularly Vahe's technology issues, and sometimes even mine as well. And you know, you guys see the 30 minutes we get. And you probably think, hey, that could run a little bit more smoothly. Imagine what it would be like without Beth. So we'll certainly miss having her here.
Yeah, I would just add that Beth's the glue, and you can see the adjustments we all kind of make in mid-show. Sometimes we make them better than others, but if Beth had her way, we'd have better backgrounds all the time. It's kind of neat to see Beth's background here. You're looking like you set it up well, Beth, but we were all grateful to you, and you've been a constant for us in a real time of flux too, and a cheerful constant at that.
Take it away, Beth.
Oh no, see, this is why I like being a producer, because I don't have to like get on and say things. But I mean, thanks to our viewers, you guys are a really good audience. You ask really good questions, you make really good comments, and you all are lucky to have these guys as your as your Kansas City sports source, because they are consummate professionals. They are fantastic writers and okay speakers. They're all right. And we all in Kansas City are very lucky to have this team of sports writers. But as for me, I have been at the Star for almost 16 years and doing this show for about the last 3. I came in starting to do this around 2019, which was a really pretty good year to start doing, the Chiefs show. It was okay. I didn't get to go to the Super Bowl, but that's okay. It was quite a ride, and doing this has been a real privilege for me, and I'm gonna miss you guys. This is a fun part of the day for me.
Well, believe me, Beth, and I'm sure I speak for everyone, and even our former colleague, Sam Mellinger, and even for Blair Kirchhoff, who I'm sure is watching, and Blair, continue on with your recovery. We will miss you terribly. Trust us on that one. And with that is a wrap as the Chiefs get ready to face off against the Cincinnati Bengals. For Vahe Gregorian, for Sam McDowell, and for producer Beth, I'm Herbie Teope. A very good Happy New Year to everyone out there. We will see you post-game Sunday on SportsBeat Live.